What if everything you thought you knew about how intelligent systems work was missing a hidden layer? Right now, most people think AI is just prompts, outputs, and maybe some fancy models behind the scenes. But what if the real power comes from something deeper, something more agentic, more dynamic, and way closer to how real systems behave in the world? In this video, we're breaking down next-gen agentic AI systems, what it actually means and why it matters, and how it changes the way we design, think about, and build intelligent systems. By the end, you'll understand not just the concept, but how it applies to real-world AI, and why this shift could be a big deal going forward. Let's dive into the details for the topic.
You know, for the longest time, we've treated AI safety as this, well, a one-on-one problem. How do you make a single AI safe? But that whole playbook is quickly becoming obsolete. See, AIs are now social. They're interacting in these super complex groups, and that creates entirely new dangers we haven't seen before. So how do we keep them safe? Well, this paper proposes a really fascinating new framework. I think the myth of Icarus is just the perfect metaphor here, isn't it? As AI's power gets closer and closer to the sun, are we paying enough attention to the wax that's holding the wings together? This is really the central question of AI safety today. How do we manage this incredible power we're building without getting seriously burned by dangers we just didn't see coming?
So to avoid that kind of Icarus-like fall, we have to completely rethink our approach. The big shift, the really crucial one, is realizing that the fundamental unit of AI safety, it's not a single AI anymore. Nope. We are now dealing with a population problem. And this slide just captures that shift perfectly. The old view on the left, that was simple, right? One model, one question. But the new reality on the right, well, that's a messy, complex world of interconnected AIs. They have goals, they have memory, and they are constantly influencing each other. And that changes everything.
And listen, this isn't some far-off science fiction. Modern AIs are already developing what researchers are calling features of agency. I mean, they can plan multi-step tasks, they have memory of past conversations, they can use external tools like APIs, and they maintain a consistent identity over really long interactions. These aren't just simple chatbots anymore. They're truly becoming persistent agents. So what's the problem? The problem is this new reality of all these interacting agents is creating brand new dangers. And our existing safety toolkit, it just wasn't built for this. It's like trying to fix a jet engine with a hammer. This right here is the million-dollar question. I mean, you can have an entire population of AIs that are perfectly safe and aligned when you test them one by one in a lab. But what happens when they start talking to each other? When they start imitating each other, forming groups, developing trends? The scary part is, we don't really know. And these risks can pop up at all different scales. At the micro level, the really small stuff, you get these subtle drifts in how language is used. At the meso level, the group level, agents can actually form coalitions or become polarized against each other. And then at the macro level, you can see massive population-wide effects like crazy information cascades or herding. And here is the critical gap. Our current methods are pretty good at identifying these risks. We can make taxonomies, we can run simulations and watch them happen. But, and this is a huge but, classifying a problem isn't the same as solving it. It's like we can observe the fire, but we have no idea how to build the fire extinguisher. Okay, so what is the solution? This paper introduces a really powerful new framework, and it argues that we need to stop looking at the forest and start looking at the trees, or maybe even the atoms that make up those trees. The first big idea is called agentic microphysics. Think of it like this. To understand why a material is strong or brittle, a physicist doesn't look at the whole block of metal. They study the interactions between its individual atoms. This is the exact same idea. To understand why a whole population of AIs becomes polarized, we need to get down to the tiny, local rules of how just two agents interact, how one agent's output becomes another's input. And how do we study that? Well, through a method they call generative safety. And this is the real innovation here. Instead of just observing bad behavior out in the wild, we go into the lab and we try to grow it from scratch. By building these scary phenomena from the ground up, we can figure out exactly what the root causes are.
And this isn't just a cool theory. It's a practical 5-stage pipeline. You start by identifying a risk, let's say herding. Then you specify the micro rules you think are causing it. You run experiments to try and grow it. Then you design interventions to stop it. And finally, you check your work by validating your findings against real-world data. It's a whole scientific method for AI safety.
Okay, I know this all sounds a little abstract, so let's make it way more concrete.
The researchers actually ran a case study to test this whole idea out, and they focused on the problem of herding behavior. So what they did was create this simplified, controlled environment. You can basically think of it as a tiny social media platform just for AIs. And the goal was simple. Figure out what specific, low-level rule makes a whole group of AI agents suddenly swarm and pay attention to the exact same piece of content. So they really boiled it down to this one crucial test. Are the AIs herding because they see something has a ton of likes, social proof? Or is it something way simpler, something structural, like just being at the top of their feed?
And the result was, wow. It was stunningly clear and honestly a little counterintuitive. It turns out the likes, they hardly mattered at all. The thing that really controlled the collective attention of the entire AI population was simply an item's position in the feed. This right here is microphysics at work. They actually broke it down into this two-stage mechanism. First, you have something called positional gating. The AIs basically ignore almost everything except for the first few items they're shown. Then, and only then, does social proof kick in. So likes might help an AI choose between item number 1 and item number 2, but they do absolutely nothing to make the AI even look at item number 20. And the safety implication here is huge. Think about it. To manipulate an entire population of AIs, you don't need convincing misinformation. You don't need a million fake accounts liking something. All you need is control over the top few slots of their feed. It's not a content problem. It's an architectural vulnerability. And this is exactly why this approach is so powerful. Once you understand this micro-level mechanism, you can start designing real interventions. You can build AI environments that are structurally more resilient to this kind of manipulation, simply by changing the basic rules of the feed. So, if we pull this all together, there are really two big ideas you should take away from this new playbook for AI safety. First, we need the right level of analysis, and that's agentic microphysics, getting down into the weeds and studying the tiny rules of interaction. And second, we need the right methodology, which is generative safety. That's what lets us experiment, discover what's actually causing these problems, and then build real solutions. What this all points to, really, is a massive shift in how we need to approach this whole problem. The future isn't just about training one good AI. It's about being thoughtful architects and designing entire digital ecosystems with safe protocols and resilient structures right from the ground up. And that leaves us with a final and pretty crucial question. We've just seen that the environment, the architecture, the protocols, these things can shape AI behavior as much or maybe even more than the AI model itself. So if that's true, who gets to design those rules? Who should be the architect of these new digital worlds? That's a question I think we all need to start thinking about.